Welcome back to Echo Ridge. Today, we have a little bit of a mess to pick up to start with, but the end state is to be able to tap all this beautiful geothermal power, and that way the base stops running out of it. You may have heard me mention that for some reason the deep freezer is not getting down to temps as quickly as possible. Well, I finally figured out why. It's because the thermal regulator keeps running out of power. So in the interest of, letting our dupes live a long and healthy life, we need to get power restored here soon or we're going to run out of food. But we're also experiencing some other problems around here. Yes, about half the dupes are now peeing their pants. And the reason why, oh wow, that's a bigger mess. And the reason why is because all of our bathrooms are backed up. And they're backed up because there's something wrong with this system here, which was our water overflow. Yes, all the pipe reorganization of last episode seems to have backfired. My guess is this filter, which is supposed to be filtering out water, needs a directional bridge so it'll know where it's going. So hopefully this will fix this. And sadly, no, that was not the issue. Why aren't you working? Oh, it's because this liquid reservoir is full, and since it's full, for some reason with regular water, maybe I reset the liquid filter by mistake last time? Which means I'm gonna need to dump all of this back out. Oh, this is gonna be a mess, but at least we know this is working. I am really glad that we have plenty of dupe labor, because about a third of the colony is on mop-up pee duty. I've also queued up a lot of sweeps in and around the colony now that we don't have to worry about the dupes not being in suits, which will not only have the upside of keeping the colony nice and clean, but also possibly improving the frames per second. One of the downsides of having this many dupes is they're not all trained equally. It's taking Jack of all Norse quite some time to build one buffer tank. Now all the non-clean waters that are coming from, in this case, this area here, which none of them should be dirty anymore, so I think I can actually get rid of these and do without the liquid filter. But I'll have to wait until we get through all of this, and once it sorts all of the polluted water, we won't have to worry about it. In fact, I can disconnect that buffer tank and just collect all the polluted water in here. This is a holdover system from this mess, which I realized it's now going to need a filter too, before this liquid pump gets to all this polluted water. Not a big deal. I'm sure I'll remember it. It shouldn't take too long for this liquid reservoir to empty, and once it does, I'll just switch it over to this pipe here because the polluted water will pass through the desalinator. Actually, instead of switching it over, I'll just add a liquid filter on here and throw the rest of it in these buffer tanks. That way we can continually improve the plumbing situation on the colony and not downgrade it. The good news is the bathrooms are starting to empty, so I can do one last mop to make sure there is no more urine sitting around here. Of course there is. Oh boy. Another update to the condo setup that I'm going to start to do in the background is you've heard me in the past couple of episodes talk about that there were things that I wanted to put in the condo that I either just forgot or didn't have room for. For instance, there's no reason why a dupe needs to be in a suit in order to repair Atmos suits or make more. And when I was looking at, okay, where could I squeeze this in the condo, I found myself being a little too rigid in my thinking. Because after all, we have this entire area here it's already sort of set up. All I have to do is extend the condo into there. It'll be sort of the West Wing. All I have to do is seal this entire area up and then open this door. I've already closed it in. And now, not only can I put a bunch of buildings in here, but we can also make sure that any dupes that we print out, which I owe 2 today, will be able to head directly into the condo. We also have this spawn down here that we'll be able to use to be able to supply oxygen for this area. I'm going to have to add more bridges here and there. I'm also trying to dump all of the hydrogen that we had left over from the old fridge into the hydrogen spine. Once that's empty, I'll be able to remove all those pipes. In fact, I'm going to move quite a few of these pipes because we also have a hydrogen line here, and I'd rather be able to put a bunch of oxygen lines in here, and this one spawn will take care of all of it. So let me do a little bit of recombobulation and get this whole thing set up, and then I'll start moving rooms in here. For instance, the hospital. The dupe really shouldn't have to be in suits in order to get to the hospital. Now, granted, It will be a pain in the tuchus to be able to do all this, but there are worse things. In the meantime, it is time to print out another dupe. And taking a look at these 3 dupes, they all sort of just work. They're error prone and disassociative, which is not too bad. So maybe we'll have a bionic dupe do some cooking. A little ironic though. Always cooking food that they're never going to eat. I'm going to try it, but I'm going to butcher it. Welcome to duplicate number 147, Tobledo Danillo? Tobledo Danillo. Now that they're printed out, I do need to make sure that nobody else can go through that door anymore. I had to make sure that the dupes in here working were going to be able to get out. And then all I have to do is open this door back. How did you get in? I just sealed that off. No. You, Tony D, come on. Stay out. They must have gotten the errand before I changed the permissions. I'm assuming that's the update. Nope. What? I could have sworn I just reset this. No, you can only go out. Go out. Thank you. All right. No more dupes in. And then all we have to do is unlock this door. So we'll let all the duplicants come in here again, and this will work. I can now remove that door and replace it with some standard tiles. Additionally, I don't have to make it so all the duplicants have to come in and out of this one area here. It would be sort of slow, because they have to go down this ladder, across, and then back up, whereas I can also just put another door right here. And now we have a whole lot more working space. Another small update I did to the condo is we needed a way to get rid of all of our polluted dirt, so I've added a couple of sublimation stations down here, and a polluted dirt drop-off. We have an auto sweeper here that'll pick polluted dirt out of these conveyor receptacles and load the sublimation stations. And that polluted dirt is coming from 2 locations. Anytime a dupe drops some off into these storage bins, or whenever there's water sieve creates some. Now, I do not believe the sublimation station will do any sort of overwriting of the gases. As we can see, the carbon skimmer is still working, although the carbon skimmers are probably not going to last much longer. Looking around the base, most of it is already breathable, and our gas pumps here are not working as hard. We have one there. We have one down here, not working at all because it's all oxygen. And then we have one on the west side as well, which means the garbage pipes might have some available throughput, well, when I get them reconnected. Look at all this gobbledygook. Where are you taking carbon dioxide from? Oh, all our natural gas generators, okay. But once this gets to flowing again, we'll have some available space in our garbage line. Combine that with the fact that carbon skimmers don't get rid of natural gas, and it seems like we have a flatulent dupe or two. I'd like to clean all this mess up. This hydrogen line is now empty, so I can clean all of these pipes up. I promise this episode is not just a pipe cleaning episode. I just want to get everything stable and somewhat normal before we go build geothermal power. In fact, there's no reason why our garbage line has to go all the way around there, when I think it might be cleaner just to go up on this side. This will be a lot of nice cleaning. I love deconstructing pipes. It's so therapeutic. Look at all this cleaning we're doing. And when you're finished, you're left with a much better product. There we go. That's a little bit better. I have one run of oxygen pipes on the left side and then one that goes right up towards the middle. I am putting in the exosuit forge. I will be transferring the hospital. Let me know in the comments below what else you think should be in the west wing of the condo. In fact, a couple of other things I'm going to do to touch this place up is I'm going to move the cooling loop that we were using over here and make sure that our west wing is nice and cool. I am going to shorten it a little bit because it doesn't need to be going all the way over here. So I'm going to take some of that excess and throw it onto our main condo line, which does have some gaps. And there we go. We have our suit system over here. We have the hospital down there. Another 2 pipes of oxygen, which will inevitably help out the condo as well. I drew the power all the way over from what's getting to be pretty convoluted on this side. So I'm going to mark the west wing as complete. I may add onesies and twosies that I find around the colony that can go in there. Speaking of power though, I wanted to show you something about the wheels. There's been a couple of comments on the wheels that said, hey, why don't you put the wheels on the same sort of power setup that you've done for the steam turbines, feeding onto the spine using conductive wire instead of heavy watt wire, which will definitely save on some of the horrendous decor. Unfortunately though, as you can see, it doesn't really work. I've done a lot of experiments. In fact, I even did an entire series on dupe-only power. The problem with this is the manual generators operate off of a battery recharge threshold. It says, hey, when the battery's lower than 50%, come run on the wheels. Well, these manual generators have no idea what the battery looks like, nor could they because batteries are on the main spine. Now, we do still have them hooked up to the automation from this line, which is connected to the main power spine, but the dupes still prefer to run on the ones directly connected to the spine. As you can see, these guys are pretty lonely. I've tried adding a power switch, and I'm going to show you what happens when you put a ceiling light on here in a second. Here, Sigwolf decided to start running on the manual generators because the ceiling light needs some power. Unfortunately, the manual generators produce 400 watts. Each light only requires 10 watts, so you're never really going to get more than 1 or 2 dupes running on these wheels. Now, despite the fact that I've done an entire series on this and have experimented quite a bit, I could still be missing something. So if you know something I'm missing, please feel free to once again let me know in the comments below. Now, while we are working on our wonderful geothermal power, I am going to get this flipped back over. And now for the main objective. First step is finding out where we're going to put the geothermal power plant. Now, when I'm looking at where I'm going to end up putting a heat spike, I'm looking for where the obsidian is. For instance, this obsidian connects a fairly large portion of the magma biome. In other words, as the heat spike drains power, in other words, heat from the magma, this obsidian allows it to reach out to much further spots where the magma is. Because after a while, the magma will solidify into igneous rock, usually in the form of a natural tile. So the larger your obsidian footprint is, the closer it'll be to more fresh magma. There's also a really large area right here that's connected, although I try to stay away from the ends because the ends, of course, are further away from all the rest of the magma. So I'm thinking this might be our position, possibly putting the heat spike right down into here. You used to be able to just core right through the magma itself, using a door trick that allowed the dupes to build through the doors without them getting scalded by the magma. And in that case, you could build a heat spike right down through the center of the magma without worry. But nowadays, you either have to go horizontal to be able to do this, or find a spot where the obsidian is wide enough to where you can safely dig down into it. And in this case, this might be our moneymaker right here, which means I need to start clearing all this out. Ooh, a minor volcano. I had forgotten that this was here. We might be able to incorporate this into our geothermal power plant. On my Twitch series, I just did a twin petroleum boiler that alternates between using the magma biome for power and a volcano. Unfortunately, this is a minor volcano. It's not a full size, so it doesn't produce as much magma. But it doesn't mean I can't use what power it has. So I suppose step 1 is going to be coring all this out. I want a decent amount of space, because remember, power plants can now be up to 120 tiles, and I want to be able to cram as many steam turbines as possible. So I think this area might be good. It doesn't have a lot of space, but if I remove all this nonsense, it will help. I'll have to be careful of the sporkids, and if I can find a convenient liquid lock in here, I will just destroy all this anyways. The last thing I need is zombie spores floating around here. I should be able to also trim some of this without it interfering too bad. That'll work there. By the way, I did amazingly remember to switch this over so I can get rid of these buffer tanks here and this liquid filter. Small little things like this I tend to forget about, which only causes me problems, so I'm quite proud of myself for remembering this time. And now that I'm primarily playing this colony on slow speed, while it does take a lot longer to record, definitely helps being able to remember small little projects like that, which in the end should help the colony. All this time and I never rummaged through the vending machine, and we even found a nice little data bank here. I always hate getting rid of these nice little tables, and I wish we could build them ourselves. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a dining hall filled with these cute little tables? Instead, Bob Ate My Bob is just gonna make it disappear into the ether. due to some creative building, I was able to keep one blob of crude oil sitting here, so I can safely go in here and destroy all of these orchids, and then I'll just fill in this entire area with tiles, which will have the result of destroying all these zombie spores. Now, before anybody starts getting excited, this is not my sour gas. I don't know where it came from, but it is not my fault. I didn't create that sour gas. It definitely came from this little piece of abyssalite right here. So to prevent that from happening in the future, I will put one insulated tile there. In fact, I'll even go one step further and put the insulated tile right here. Give us a little bit more space. Ooh, and it's time to destroy some zombie spores. Now, what am I going to do with all this oil? I suppose we could be lubricating the dupes with it. Oh, speaking of which, our soldering station and gear balm station is up here, whereas there's no reason why it can't be in our west wing as well. So let me get that set up. Meanwhile, in the oil biome, we are clearing out everything I can find, at least on this side. Lots of scaffolding going everywhere that I will end up removing. But there is a plan to my madness. Oh, I definitely want to get in there too. We'll just go something like this. This entire area here will be the sort of industrial complex. I'm going to vacuum all of it out and move all of the crude oil over to this side, which means I also need to clean this place up so it can hold more oil. And I've trapped some dupes, haven't I? Yes, I have. Can we please do this? The entire crew wants to go home. So please help me save your friends. Now the good news is we have 147 duplicants. So this shouldn't take too long. I am going to set up some scaffolding that uses the 7 high principle, because when you do scaffolding like this, make sure that's 7 high as well. The duplicants can dig 4 tiles high and 3 tiles low. So we can save on quite a bit of building of the ladders. Ooh, there's a neural vacillator. Let's find out who's going in. In this case, we're going to use Aor, because I want to see if there's anything different that happens when you throw a bionic dupe inside of a neural vacillator. That sounds like a fun idea. Now, when you do this sort of digging, you want to make sure that you put in as much of the scaffolding as possible at first. That way you don't get a bunch of trapped dupes. Speaking of which, oh look, they're all going home. Don't worry, you can hold it for just a little bit longer. That way, when you start doing massive digs like this, you don't end up trapping a whole bunch of dupes. And you also want to make sure you're being smarter than me in trying to use igneous rock whenever possible down in this biome, because there's a lot more igneous rock than anything else. Slime biomes have a lot of sedimentary rock, so those are good ladders to use there. And then the salty biomes typically have a lot of sedimentary rock and some granite. And the pod has decided it's time for another helper. They both have decreased construction, which I do not love. I think we're good on ranchers, so Sonyar is going to be able to help out with some of the mushroom farming. Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 148, Sean Lynch. Oh, Aor, I'd somewhat forgotten about you. Let's complete that process. Aor received the regenerative trait, health plus 20%. Very nice. I wonder how long they've been sitting in that chair. Sorry, buddy. Now, due to quite a few messes that we've made in the colony from time to time, there is some water on this side, and I'd like to clean it up. It's so small, though. So I think we'll try using some mesh tiles, although it may not work. There may be a little bit too much there. Although it's typically hit and miss on how successful you will be with this. Oh, Naz! Come on, of all the places to get stuck, which ones can you destroy? Come on, you're a digger, buddy. You can do this. There we go. Naz will be able to save themselves. We did manage to build in all of those zombie spore tiles, so this can now be safely deconstructed and dug out. And hopefully they'll allow this liquid to thin out a little bit, because right now it is too much to be able to mop. Over on this side, though, we were able to get all of... Oh, I thought we were. There's a little bit more right there that I need to get, so let me actually just build a regular tile, and maybe it'll pop up. Here we go. Unfortunately, water looks like it goes pretty far, so more mesh tiles it is. I've also started the massive sweep of this biome because we don't want anything in here. Oh, it looks like I've got a couple more tiles over here. Luckily, we do have an auto sweeper here that likes to pick things up. So what we're going to do is put an automatic dispenser, say right here, and then I'll put it on sweep only everything. So anything that we sweep down here, since this is the closest location, will be dropped right here, where the auto sweeper will eventually send it up top. I also have a couple of liquid pumps. We are finishing the power wires now to be able to drain this entire area, which means now it's probably about the time that I need to seal this in. And a standard liquid lock is going to be just fine. It doesn't even need to be insulated. Let me move that over a little bit. It doesn't even need to be insulated for the simple fact that the entire area is going to be a vacuum anyways. So there'll be no heat transfer from in here out there. Oh, just as soon as I deconstructed all this, now there's polluted water up here too? I've prevented any more liquids from falling down in there by putting a small tile right here, and that way any liquids will just sort of pool in this area and we'll be able to sweep them. A sort of liquid catch. One of these days I'm going to remember to do that before I start exploring this biome, because this problem always bites me. I see petroleum down there, more petroleum. Looks like there's water up top here. And the water sitting in here, we're just going to destroy with a tile. And since I'm here, I'm also going to try to corner build and destroy all this polluted water. And that way this whole place becomes sealed in, and I don't ever have to worry about this little gobbledygook here. Our liquid lock is filling, although there's a stubborn tile of carbon dioxide right here. All I have to do is put a tile in it and then deconstruct the tile, and that carbon dioxide will go away. There we go. All that polluted water has been destroyed. And now I can finish that up something like this. I don't know if we'll ever end up using this space, but it'll make it look nice and clean. Especially when I put in the geothermal power plant to end all power issues on this colony forever. Hopefully, maybe. One thing that I've been pretty impressed with, despite all the dupes being out and about working because I'm queuing up commands about as fast as I can, our tank system is doing pretty good, to the point that the bottom two suit docks are chock filled with oxygen. The top two are not doing as well, and the reason is when a dupe wakes up, well, the closest point to where they can get out of the base to go work is in these top two. But it's not too big of a deal because while these suits are filling with oxygen, there is plenty of capacity with the bottom two, which still represents 50 duplicants out and about, doing whatever I dream up for them to do. And our little west wing has only helped that issue because dupes don't have to be outside to work on this. Why does my game keep pausing? There was an oxygen not included update that I recommend you go take a look at, and so some of my mods may not be operating at peak efficiency. I also noticed, why is there still pee on this floor? When I first loaded up the game, that quite a few bionic dupes all of a sudden had slime lung. What I'm guessing that is that they had received the slime lung germs so long ago that when the update hit and bionic dupes are able to get sick as intended, well, they all suddenly got sick. As it is right now, I'm dealing with a bout of food poisoning, and I'm not exactly sure why. Yeah, there's a bunch of germs down here, but I put a sink in front of this room just to make sure that when duplicants are dropping off polluted dirt here, they have to go through the sink and clean their hands. It could have been from all the pee that I picked up, but we haven't had problems with the toilets in several cycles, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. After very many minutes, we have now finally finished coring out the entire oil biome. I've also set up a pair of liquid vents where I have a pump over in this low point and then a pump in this low point that's going to move all the remainder oil and petroleum over to this side. I also have 8 gas pumps that are starting the long process of vacuuming out this entire side. All of that is being powered by a pair of conductive wire runs. I have set up the heavy watt conductive wire to be able to come in to this side. I was considering just boring through here and then sending the heavy watt conductive wire through it, but I kind of like the look of it being surrounded all by abyssalite. I feel like this may be a mistake in the future, considering the main power spine now kind of looks fragmented down here at the bottom. Yeah, who am I kidding? Let me give the gas pumps a little bit more work to do, and I will build this out somehow, like maybe here? I'll try to make it look as clean as possible. In addition, I have also queued up a lot of sweep commands because I need all of this place pretty clean before we can start our project. So it looks like I have some time to burn while this is vacuumed, pumped, and swept out. So I'm going to eat some lunch and maybe take a nap and let this run. I'm sure the dupes will be fine while I'm gone. As you can see, our gas pumps are no longer pumping gas, and that's because, once again, we were out of power. The brownouts are intermittent, but they still pose a problem. And I realized they have 205 tons of coal, thanks to our Hatchie boys that we started up a very, very long time ago. So, I think it's time to supplement the power network, at least temporarily. And I think this is the perfect place to do it. So I'm going to put down a bunch of mesh tiles and make sure each room is 120 tiles. And we're going to put down a lot of coal generators. And the reason why I'm using mesh tiles is because all these coal generators are going to create a lot of carbon dioxide. I'm not too worried about it in the long term because I'm only using these coal generators to stop the gap until we get our geothermal power online. Now, I would like to make them out of gold. I just don't know how many we're going to be able to afford. We only have 18 tons of gold, which, by the way, I wanted to show you that after digging up the oil biome, we ended up with 73 tons of diamond. Not too shabby. The reason I'm using gold is because this area is going to get pretty hot, and it would be nice. I guess I need to save room for a battery. I can put the battery out here. And it would be pretty nice if they didn't all overheat. And there's 18 tons of gold gone, so we will switch over to, I guess, copper. Wait a minute, what am I doing? I need automated delivery of coal, which normally we go 3 coal generators and then a storage bin filled with coal, and then this side can do the same thing, also utilizing that same storage bin. And I was making them out of copper ore again. I want to start with gold. Look, it's been a long day of ONI. I suppose instead of making them out of copper, I will use steel because then I know they will not overheat. I don't know what I would have done in this colony if it were not for lead. We have used so much of it and we still have 147 tons remaining. And with the last of the automation wire going in, now all we have to do is wait, and this should temporarily fix the power problems in the colony. We will see. I've also been down here working on this small system here. Remember, this line was cooling the oxygen, and I figured since it's already sitting there, we might as well have it cool the water that is coming from the excess steam that's being condensed by the steam turbines. Because as it is, it's 94 degrees, which is just raising the overall temperature inside of our main water tank. So since this is being used anyways, I might as well. Oh no. In my haste, of course, I transferred some polluted water in there. I will fix that, don't worry. I'm changing around the piping because I want the polluted water, which is cooler, to be on the outside of the bricks. Not strictly necessary. You know what I could do? Just run that line all the way through the water tank. No, it's fine. We don't even really need to cool this water. But to be quite frank, I'm trying to find things to do while I wait for the pumps to do their thing in our oil biome. Our coal generators are online. Each one of them is sitting in a power plant. And it looks like the dupes did a good job of giving them the NG's tune-up, which means every coal generator is producing 900 watts. Now, granted, we're already down to 188 tons of coal, but at least the dupes don't have to run for a little while. Our water chiller is going into place. It's not going to be the best, but considering the blobs coming out are 94.8 degrees and leaving it around 50, that's not too shabby. But once again, we really didn't need this, so I built the metal tiles out of lead this time. Lead's not a horrible conductor with a thermal conductivity of 35. The specific heat capacity is horrible, but at least we're doing something with that excess cooling. Another minor update around the colony is the fact that our geotuners are no longer operating, which means this cool steam vent is only erupting at 110°C, which is actually cooling down our sauna. I'd love to use a bleach stone hopper, but unfortunately it requires gold, which we do not have a renewable resource of. Maybe one day, but until then, there'll be no more geotuning of any sort of water source because they all take bleach stone. I really intended to get more done with this episode, but there's still quite a bit of maintenance that I had to do, and, well, just prepping this biome is going to take a lot longer than I expected. I have an idea for a design, and it's going to be pretty excessive, so let me know in the comments below what you would do with this sort of setup. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.